knew there was some weird technical difficulties going on. Give me a sec here. Okay. There are some weird audio issues that I'm having. Let's see what's going on. So, I have sound coming out of the computer, which is throwing me way off, and not sure what it is that's doing that. If It would help if my mic wasn't muted after that, after I fixed it. So again, let me know if you can hear me, and no, I'm not going to sing for you. That will not be a thing. Okay. Why, oh, why? What is going on? All right. This is just absolutely wild. Okay, now you can hear me, but now I have sound coming through the computer. This cutting mat has there. So, okay. It's, can't be the sharing. It's not that. So now I get this big delay, and then I hear through the computer. Oh wow! So yeah, this shouldn't be happening, and I'm not sure how to fix this darn thing. Oh, there it is. Try that. All right. Here's my next attempt. I'm gonna give it one more try. All right. Hopefully, this finally works. So I just let me know. I'm gonna move on, and I'm gonna try and deal with the audio in the background. I'm gonna see if I can just lower that and you can still hear me, so I can get through this. I don't know what's with all the late noise. I've got to stop trying different cameras. It's the cameras that are messing. Um, when I hook a second camera up, it's completely messing with everything. So, all right. So where we left off, I was going to continue to work on the bridge and the station, the bridge, and work with the molds. And this was my model to start with. And this again, because we're not doing any other. This is like a 2-foot section that I cut out, and then I started carving crazily. This is a 1-inch insulation foam, and this was the measured out and cut out um, wood that I was gonna um, have have it set up like this, but I was a little concerned about this setup, so I went out and I got molds or mold maker and was able to make a mold here, and you can see it's well used, and that a whole bunch of the mixture um, stuck to it. And so when I first poured it in so I'm using um, carving um, um, carving plaster. So it seems to be a softer plaster. It seems to stay carvable. And so I'm thinking that I might try lightweight hydrocal, which I've worked with before, which seems to be a little more solid than this and seems to be carvable too. But when I first did the mold, this is how thin it came out. And let's see if adding some light here, probably not. That's um, let's see if I can change the lighting. So, of course, okay. So you can see, I did go in and do the carving. So I did a flat mold first. So it was this, and then I carved it, and then used this mold to make duplicates. Now, I did 2 things for carving. I used, like a dentist pick to carve. I also used a pencil for some of this, um, and, um, and then I did 2 attempts. I attempted to ball up some tinfoil and, and, uh and then I did it to roll it, and it did some stuff to it, but when I was carving this with the dental pick, this was so thin and that I couldn't, I couldn't keep it together, so this is it breaking apart. Um, then I was able to, then I figured it out, and I went ahead and I carved it thicker, like, carved it a half inch, which is what I was going for, and which fits in there, and it came out nice. And this is broken up because I was trying some things with making the arch, but this is how it came out. So the first one came out. Here it is, half inch thick, and so it fit in there and came out. And then I did some painting and some washes. Um, this is this is this plaster is so easily damaged or moved or flaked or whatever that just working with it, I got some flecks in there, and they rub in real easy. But all that definition is there. It looks good. I didn't do uh, variations on this. I did just about the same all the way through, just alternating where the lines were. So, um, Yeah, so it was one of those things, Ken, that I was, kind of afraid to, afraid to jump in and do, and that's why I was looking for what other people are doing, and there wasn't a lot out there in the model railroading world for this, um, and so, again, I got myself to just jump in and do it, and I think that's all that people need to do. These aren't hard processes. These molds take a half hour to make, and then they work perfectly. There's still some curing that can be done, but they work really well. And the plaster, this plaster takes a day, 24 hours to um, to fully set. Um, it starts to harden pretty quickly, but it's still very fragile. So then I was able to go ahead and repeat it. So this mold worked again with plenty of definition in here. Worked really well. And then these are just variations because I was just trying different colors and shades and washes and dry brushing um, to make those. And if I were to, so sorry, if I were able to, um, lost my train of thought there. So, okay. So the next thing, the reason that these pieces are here is I went and I did a third one because I wanted to do the arch here. It's a little messy over here. I can do better with the carving, but there's specific carving for that arch. Um, and and so if I was matching, and I'll show you a picture of it, but here's where I was testing my carving and I was trying to recreate that over here. It gets dicey here. I was careful with breaking this, and I was using a hobby knife, a chisel blade, um, to get this off. Um, but you got to be careful. And then I did some sanding here to try and get as even as possible. So we'll perfect that technique as well. But essentially, you know, this is how it's gonna go. Though I, yeah, and you need a mask. So when I'm working with this stuff, I use the N95 desk masks. Um, so um, so um, thank you, Jimmy. I was going to show a picture of that too. Uh, so I made them this small for one as test pieces. Um, Two, I didn't know how well it would go together. These don't go together well because you can see there's a little bit of curving on here, and that's the full half inch. So it doesn't go together great from a connection point. So I'd have to put some filler in of some kind. However, I can make them larger. Two reasons. So one, the mold boxes I was using are on my 3D printer, so that I didn't have to go out and buy acrylic and things like that. Um, so the next step, though, is instead of having this be in pieces here, um, I did um, I did some 3D printing to so that I can create a mold box that's longer. And so here's the the bridge mold, which will make it even better. Um, but here is my design of it. So it's a little off from here, but it's still this is more symmetrical, this curve based on the tool I was using. That'll be fine. Um, and to make a mold box, I did print out parts again instead of going out and buying acrylic and stuff. Since I had this, I also printed this in pieces, so I'm gonna have to get this together, uh, so that because it was just gonna be faster, or it was gonna be easier. I shouldn't say faster, but I printed it in pieces, and we'll have to glue this together. But essentially that'd be the mold box, and then the mold would fit in there. I would then create the mold, the flat mold, and then go ahead and carve, and then do a new mold like I did here, the flat mold, and then the carved mold. And then I will be able to make that whole piece, which means that I will also make a larger mold box. Um, this one's a little short. I could still do this side in here as well. Uh, it's still going to be tedious to cut out these or to carve out everything. It's still going to be a process. You don't get away with that. But let's just to show you, these are way more symmetrical than the prototype. So if I was really being prototypey, if that's a word, um, no, that's not what I want. There it is. So let me pull back for a second. So here's the station on the left. This is just past the station going towards New York. And the you can see that there actually are all kinds of sizes, um, almost like what they had when they had it. This was built in the late 1880s, 1890s, the station, and so it might have been the size rocks they had. Um, there's some areas that are more symmetrical, but you can see small square kind of rocks and then rectangular ones. You can see them big and thick, and then some thinner. The other thing you can see is some weathering on them. So you have some like dark weathering over on the left here. You have some lighter stuff throughout. And then uh, there are other areas. Let's see if I can go along here. So here's the bridge area right here. And so if you look at this, you can see that the sun hits this, and partially it's the lighting of this, and it's lighter. You can see here over on the left of the bridge, it's a little more uniform, so it looks almost like this is a patch job at some point along the way. Um, uh, you know, um, and here where the stones are around that arch that I have to get right. Um, but these are, there are variations, so I can get away with that. I just don't like that it's really symmetrical because this whole thing is not symmetrical to me. Uh, that is sorry. So this gives a lot of weathering opportunities, a lot of different colors, um, in different kind of stuff that I did on here. I'll talk about what I did on here, let me come back to, uh, so so, um, and again, this is something you would have to look kinda up close at, but, um the big variation on here is this bottom. There's actually some green to have the effect of the greenery, um, and then a little bit of light dry brushing down here, over here. Um, on this one, um, I did have some more of that green. It just looks dark on here now. Um, but and I did a little bit more dry brushing on here throughout. Here are some of the colors that I used. So I started with this dark sea gray was the base. So this is the base of all of them. So you can see how dark this one is compared to this one, and it started with the dark sea gray, and it is pretty dark. Uh, I used I used mahogany. So mahogany is kind of it's kind of a redder dark tone to it, and, um, they kinda the color is still in there, but I was trying to do streaks down and some large streaks down, and I think I did a little bit more on this one, and I think that's why some of that's a little bit darker, but, I think it gives some tone to these. You can see some darker stone here than up here, uh, and then I used some this is white gray, so it's just a slightly off white, to do some of the dry brushing, and then I used some, dark earth as well on there, um, and so what I did is I instead of using the airbrush 'cause, to have kind of a little bit different control, you can see here's the palette I used, but I keep a little bottle. This is an old Aleene's, um, this is old Aleene's, bottle for Aleene's glue, and I keep distilled water in here, and so I would just plop down a little bit of the paint, plop down some water, mix it with the brush, and brush it on much more thin. Now, I love using Model Air. These are designed for the airbrush, and they don't have to be thinned down further. You can put them right in the airbrush, and they flow great. But for this, I wanted to have a more of a wash like look to it, and again, I repeated some of this I repeated some of this on this one as well with these colors. So there are variations with all of the same colors too, which was kinda neat. So, uh, so yeah, so I'm just trying to do it visually that way, and there's so much color variation on that you should get when you look at that bridge from years of weathering and everything, and the original colors of the stone and all, and the moss and the, all of that, that you can't really go wrong with it, you know? So, yeah, this I think that, as long as I have enough of the operational pieces. I think because this is going to be designed as the feature scene with the station and um, to have the station, the track catenary, the all the track detail, the um, the shelter and the platform on the other side, the platform on this side. Um, I would hope that I could use that as a prototype scene, and I know there's some requirements about rolling stock in there and motive power being able to run on it, and, so I definitely would, um, probably use that as a prototype scene as, for a prototype certificate, but, so so, uh, I was able to prove that I could do it, and now I can now it's not like the mold maker's not that cheap. I did get it on I had a coupon for it. I do have some dollars left, um, but I think to make the bigger molds and everything, um, I might have to get the larger version, and it's not cheap. It's like $76. Uh, so I might have to save up for that one again. Uh, but we'll move on. I know that I'm not gonna have enough in the mold maker to do this piece, so I'll have to wait to get some more. Um, yeah, Ken, it would be nice to have a presentation on all the different certificates, whether it's somebody who achieves a certificate or just, an explanation of it. Um, and that would be nice to have just all around. Um, hopefully, as I start to make some progress, I don't think I'm making a whole lot of progress, but as I make some progress, hopefully, you know, you can see going from kind of nothing to a layout with to get the certificates. That would be the thing um, if I could be able to present that um, my steps. So, that's part of why the live stream um, started was to keep me on track with, pun intended, with all these steps. Um, unfortunately, it takes a long time to do this, but just to get through the cars and everything. Um, so, um, so like you know, once I get through the cars, if I'm working on this and just put it together in some semblance of order so it can be presented so that, I move on to work on while I'm working on scenery certificate and I end up with the prototype certificate, something like that. Um, and as I work on the buildings and everything. So that was always the intent of this, of and the intent again, like you said, selfish, um, was to oh my goodness, was um, to keep me honest and keep me going with this, and so that's why when I was kind of as you notice with my cars, I sort of get to a certain point and then I move on to something else because I'm feeling stuck, like with the gondola, the 3D printed gondola. I'm stuck with the ladder issue. That's the only thing that I'm stuck with. Um, with that. I should be done with that car. So I moved on to do other projects, but at least I keep going. I just have to get myself back to that. I don't need to move on to the motive power stuff, but I was started a project with that, and now I'm moving to this. However it is, I think um, I think I could get there, but I think it's going to take a pretty long time to do it. Hey, Brad, welcome in. Nice to have you in here. You missed all the fun audio problems I had. I keep trying to add cameras to add more angles and things, and it keeps screwing up the, live stream, so the first part of the live stream was spent, uh, with you all yelling at me to sing because you couldn't hear me, uh, but, just, uh, uh, so So are you trying to create a race, Tom, for all of us to get these things done? Mine is definitely the long game. I don't think that I will, um, I I I don't think I'll make 9.99, um, and maybe not, uh, 11.64 either. I it's still the goal to get it done, but, not sure it's gonna happen. Anyway, so, um oh, the other thing I forgot on here too, even this light one, I just made I have black paint and, alcohol. I made a wash, just more, Vallejo black paint. I made a wash, um, to go over all of these. You we look when we looked at the picture, there were I think the patched area had some mortar in it, there's some light mortar in it, but with it being older, you don't see any real mortar in this. So, let's go ahead. So so over on this one, you can see mortar all throughout on here when it's really lit up with the sun and everything. Um, but if you sorry, folks, if you look under the bridge here and the rocks against the wall, you can't see mortar on there. Um, and then if we go back over oh, oh, so I just put us through to the back end. So here's the other side. Um, you have to get up close to see that mortar on there. And you can see all kinds of different um, all kinds of different weathering that's happened here. So let's see here. Here's some of that mossy, moldy green on here that I was trying to emulate. Ooh, that's very close up. That's on this is on the back side of it. And where did you go? So I wanted to go back over in here. So back over in here, you have to go up close to see any type of mortar, but you can see this is older. And you have some big gaps in here and there that dark shade that you can that's gaps between the rocks there where mortar used to be, um, but isn't really anymore. So lots of variation on there. So speaking of hitting 1164, Ken, so what are you working on tonight? So thanks, Mom. I appreciate that. Um, so Jimmy, the speaking of that, the slime on there, and what I was trying to get at, for HO scale, that's pretty good. But that's one of those kind of things that makes me want to go up to like O scale and be crazy like that because of the amount of detail you would have to you would have that would be much more in focus, I guess would be the word. Um, Definitely don't have any room for it, so I'm not gonna do it, but, um, uh, yeah, um, I'm gonna have to play around with, um, my carving skills to see if I can get some, uh So what are you how are you making the bridge, Kim? I have to play around with my carving skills on here to get some variation in the brick. I think it would be a little more convincing. Um, Understanding how, the evaluators, I think we're calling them now, would evaluate something like that. Um, I knew you were gonna say that, Ken. I was skipping that on purpose. Um, the, uh I would think they would look at this and say, "Oh, that's too uniform," looking at a picture of the bridge. I think they'd be like, "That's too uniform." Um, but but that's just my guess is how they would react to it. Um, so one of these days it snowed a little bit, it didn't snow much, but, one of these days I have to get back out to, and we'll have to pick up some more of supplies to get keep moving on this. So The the thing that draws me to S-Scale mostly is to know that I could use, like, Hot Wheel cars and stuff, the stuff I grew up with, not the crazy stuff. You see all kinds of crazy stuff now. Just like Legos were really basic when I was younger, the Hot Wheel cars and, Matchbox cars were very basic and were all the kind of cars that I liked on the street. Um Guess what, Kim? I would need the $20 bills to, to be able to, uh, have such wonderful, judging. Um, I get $10 a paycheck, and that goes out the door to for supplies like these, so I don't think I could, um, if the word's not bribe, I don't know what I could I couldn't make judges happy like that, uh, but, so it's gonna have to be on real merit, I guess. So hopefully, if I'm able to get out, um, I I do have um, I have Monday off for the holiday, but I have some pre-planned stuff to do on Monday. But and by the time I'm done with work, I can't get over. Well, I could get over to Michael's to probably pick some more of the mold maker up. I probably can make one more of these small ones, but I don't think I have enough mold uh, maker stuff for this big of a job. The other thing I have to do is uh, I'm obviously going to experiment with these when I put them together to seal them together. I'm going to be using a glue gun. It should work, but this PLA plastic's thin, because I the infill in here is very light. Um, so thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. Um, the infill is very light, so I'm just wondering if the glue is too hot, if it'll melt this stuff. Um, but the idea would just be to seal it down with the uh, to to create a seal with the hot glue. And so that'll be the next experiment. I was going to try to do it while we are on camera, but I don't have enough plugs over here to enough wall outlets over here uh, to um, to do that. And I have a very old glue gun since Tom likes things to be pretty. Uh, but if you look at this is actually an Aliens glue gun. It was my dad's, uh, and I can't even get the tip of the glue gun off because it comes with additional tips on here. I didn't know it was Aliens. I just saw that. Um, but yeah, I've had this forever. I've been using this thing forever. It's called the Super Bonder, and it has. I have these other tips, but so much glue has gone into the tip of this thing that I'm not sure how I can get that off to use the other tips or anything. So I've never tried the other tips, but it works great. Um, and that's what I'll use to make it happen. You, I haven't tried to seal these with anything yet. Um, but just from handling them now, different plasters are going to be different toughness. This was designed to carve, so this is really soft. That's the my hands are just handling them have plaster dust on them. This the mat is all plaster dust now. Well, some paint. Um, but this one definitely is harder to work with. That's why I thought about the lightweight hydrocal. Um, when I've painted the rocks, I've I've I used lightweight hydrocal to create rocks on my N scale layout, and I never had a problem handling them or anything after. And that was all washes. So I started with the Woodland Scenics pigment set for doing their leopard spotting technique, but it's washes, and I put those on, painted. Everything's painted on there, and I never had a problem. And I was handling them to glue them in. Um, I glued them into the Sculptamold with Sculptamold, and then you know colored them and painted them and everything, and never had the problem that I have with this. And that's from handling. That's chipped on there. That one that's chipped on there. So I think with this, you'd have to constantly paint over it unless there's some way to seal it. But I don't know if your regular paint sealers would keep you from scratching them. So that's a good question. Um, so yeah, I mean, there's plenty of glue guns work really well. Um, I have. It's hard to show you. I know I showed it on a early live stream, but to have a place for that's easily accessible and somewhat organized for my styrene and some of the other supplies I have a box to my left, and I cut out short boxes so that I cut out short boxes so that I have some of this stuff, and I glued them in with glue gun so they work with cardboard. They work with so much stuff because it's high heat right away and then it cools right away. So it's really good. And I have all my like tube styrene in a taller box in there, and that's glued in. I like using the glue gun. It's messy, and I'm pretty messy with anything. So I certainly will get the little stringiness around no matter what I try to do. Uh, but I like using the glue because it's a very quick way to bond stuff together, and it stays really solid. Um, yeah, um, I'm just not on TikTok a lot. Um, I think I follow you, Tom, on split on TikTok, um, but um, So I didn't even know they had a shop on there. Uh, but I'm sure you can get a shop. You can put a shop together anywhere. Um, but yeah, anything that doesn't have to be plugged into the wall, which is going to limit where you can use it, would be nice. So that's pretty cool. Um, so hopefully I'll be able to, like I said, I'll be able to get the mold maker and get moving on the bridge part of this, and we'll see what my sculpting skills are for this. You can tell they weren't very. I have a very shaky hand, so when I went to scratch this out, it wasn't very well done. And then here, because he had to chip away, that wasn't too well done. But yeah, so I'm learning as I go, and imparting on you all that hopefully do better than me at some point. So anyway, so here, for instance, this is kind of neat just to have this chipped away. You know, if I had a layout that had some finishing on it already, I could use these and broken pieces and use them as debris in an urban setting would be really nice to use something like that. But yeah, I was trying to chip that away. Uh, so that's where I got to. Uh, there are so many out there that people share. I don't know how you can't find tools because there's so many people that share their tools out there. Uh, but so, how did the meeting go on Tuesday? Unfortunately, I missed it. Um, but hopefully it went well. Um, Also, I meant to ask too, Tom, were you planning on making those meetings available? Was it recorded, first of all? And would you ever make them available on, you know, on YouTube? So, uh, hopefully, hopefully a lot of people were able to attend it, and um, I'm curious now as we're so far from the pandemic stuff, if people are still enjoying, attending meetings like that. The one I've been closest to, which is New Tracks Modeling, I think they call it New Tracks Live now, has had a steady for years, has had a steady 25 to 30 meet at those, um, or to be on Zoom. Um, I know NMRA has those have dwindled on their they have the smaller shows now monthly. Um, I I'm biased. I learn a lot from those, and from all those clinics that people put on and everything, and I enjoy it. And being a semi lone modeler, um, I you know I enjoy the medium for that. Um, so I hope they don't go away. I hope people continue to share that way. Um, I One of my favorites uh, is the Michiana divisions Thursday nights. I don't get on those often. I'm busy doing something, and so I don't usually see them live. Um, but um, but I catch the clinics on those are great. Lester Brewer attends those religiously, and he's done a ton of the clinics, some that I've seen at our events he's done on there, and some that I haven't seen he's done, but there are clinics almost every week that are very good. So I really enjoy theirs. So I never miss a replay of those. I was able to a couple weeks ago jump on and be on there live, which was really neat. Um, so, Jimmy, you have some unique tools, um, or I know, like you have yeah. I don't think I don't think any of my tools are unique. Um, I don't think they're earth shattering, but um, there are all kinds of things that everybody uses. It's interesting. I think we all, depending on what techniques we're using, the um, the we get used to certain tools. Like for instance, I like um, I have I forget what we call this one. I have this one, but it's still um, subject to user error when you're nipping the styrene. Um, Still can have things that are off, but generally it does work for what it's doing. But there's definitely, you know, it's it's important to understand what works for you personally and what you get practice with. Um, for instance, I had never soldered before until the hobby, and then I got into soldering, and I'm no expert with it, but I think I'm pretty good. I don't If I'm soldering small wires on a decoder, I don't generally fry the decoder or those pads. They all work, so I do something right with those. You know, and I don't think that I'm looking at my tools to my left here, uh, and I don't think I'm using anything that's odd or different or exotic. But, uh, but I like to see what people's like if they have a specialty and they do something all the time, they often have specific tools that aren't always generally used, but they've gotten really good with. I think one of my it's I'm so boring. One of my favorite tools is the 1, 2, 3 blocks. So I'm not sure I want to know about alternate use tools, Jimmy. Though that that's a little scary. So, just looking around to see if I have any. I really don't. I have tools that everybody has said use. Um, yeah, yeah. So, the one thing the one really useful tool is I printed out a 3D printed version of. I have the standard um, coupler height gauge. I printed one out, tested it against this one, and it works perfectly. This one kind of snaps in between the rail, and so now it's really easy. I don't have to flip around the car or anything. And just pull out the piece of rail, and I snap that in on one side. I put this on the rail on the other side, And while this does move, and sometimes it'll stay in place if it's tight, this one is on top of the rail, so it moves. So I'll put down a car and I'll pull this in, and then I can look at both sides together instead of having to flip the car around or pull this up and flip this around. So I have the extra one. That's been very useful. Uh, and, uh, so I think that's one different tool because I don't think a lot of people probably use two at a time. That's been helpful. And the only other one, the only other exotic tool I think is probably, and it won't be exotic for long, but is a 3D printer. Has been a really good tool. So, yeah, um, what I liking to use like videos and clinics and things. Um, I subscribe to miniature channels. I'll subscribe to arts and crafts channels because there are plenty of tools out there that you find out that they use different tools to do the same things we do, or they have a tool that you think will come in really handy when you're trying to do something specific. Um, so I'm always watching for those things, and there's some great artists out there um, who do some amazing things. I just saw one where um, he takes a clear thumbtack, so the clear plastic with the little, um, metal spike in it, and he melts it down slightly to pull out that metal spike and to elongate it, and then he cuts part of it off, and, part of it becomes the base of a wine glass. He'll then take a pipette like this, he'll cut the pipette down, and he'll melt this edge of the pipette to that stretched out thumbtack, and then you have these incredible looking wine glasses. I thought that was pretty ingenious. So, um, yeah, so the nibbler, so that, my thing is, though, you still have to keep it straight and steady, and you're doing a small window. So when I was doing, N scale, the nibbler was hard to get into places because you're already that the top part's pretty big for N scale. For HO scale, it works, but you still have to keep it kinda steady and even. So when I was going in to do some windows and doors, I would find that maybe I would angle it just slightly, and then I would have an issue where it wasn't straight. So there's still some skill there. So is that over top of your workspace, Jimmy? The LED? I've seen people do that where they kinda do an arc out of it. So so here's something about, this is, for, for the couplers to bend the wire on the couplers. Um, I found that it does an extreme bend on it, and I didn't haven't always liked that. Now I cut all of mine off, um, but I this is from um, a set of pliers from, for people who do beading, and so it's smaller, and so I've have finer control to bend things, and when I've bent, sometimes um, um, what do you call those things? When I'm bending any kind of wire, I'll use this one over this one, because it's just finer control. It's smaller and finer control. Uh, but I've used this for a couple things. I've used this to bend styrene, when I wanted some kind of bend to it, like if I was doing some kind of piping and I wanted to bend to it, I've done it with this. That works well as well. But, let's see here. Any other I probably can bring these down to the kitchen. Um, I got these for because at the dollar store or the $1.50 store now, um, I like using the knife to carve um, um, sculpt and mold styrene. So when I was working on the styrene project, um, I didn't use our kitchen knives. I just went out and bought these at the Dollar Tree, and I just like the control of using this over like people use like a hot wire foam cutter, and um, that has its own issues that aren't a big deal. I can still use if I just like that. I like messes, so it's much more messy than using a hot wire foam cutter. I have a couple of here are some sanding blocks I use. Um, for tight spaces with a flat surface, I like to use these little thin ones, and this one for this one because it's flat, for things that I need that are larger. Also use the nail files, or the cuticle files for sanding all the time. I'll cut one of these down when I, especially in N scale, cut one of these down to still have a little bit of surface to get in there to file doors and windows. Blades galore have I've have yet to run out of. I've had bought a set of I think a set of 250 blades and a set of 100 blades, and I'm not being as stingy with them where I'm switching them out every time I do some new cutting. I did buy some extra. These are the chisel blades. I bought some extra chisel blades because I tend to use it more now as I've gotten a little more experience with the cutting. So, um, you know, yeah, those they're very haven't. I didn't think I would need all those different ones, and not need, but I didn't think I would use all the different kind of sanding. But um, you really use a lot. You do a lot of sanding. Um, so here's the little bootleg TCD sanding block. You can see here I was how this is all this type of this carving plaster eats it all up real quick, and so we can probably get rid of that one. Uh, so I have to put the new one in here. Oh, as I was showing you this is was a I don't know if this was Sam's Club, but it was chocolate mousse in there, and when I got done with those, I have, like, 4 of them that came in a package. So I actually was gonna use them for super glue, but as you can see here, this one I use for the paint. There's plenty of things I could use for the paint, but that was the easiest, to grab. But this is a little bit concave, so you can pour a little bit of the super glue in here, and it'll pool in the middle. Like, a lot of people use shot glasses. I looked around everywhere for shot glasses, couldn't find them. Ate through these, and I'm like, "I just need to wash these out," and I've got something to use there. So have so I showed you earlier, this is what I use to dispense distilled water. That's my ugly writing saying distilled water, and this is all the aliens. I got these at Dollar Tree. They had these, and they still have them, and that's a good amount of glue for the price. And so I have another one, and I use this one all the time for the glue, and I just refill it. I don't buy it was more economical to buy a giant bottle like this, and this is barely touched. Um, and then I just fill the bottle there. I have some. I had to get. I had a really big container for some wood glue. So it's a pizza place. I don't even know if it's still there, but they had their own dressing in there. I think we got some ranch dressing and stuff. And so when we got rid of it, I put I got it out of the other container and it's got a nice little uh, hole to dispense there. Usually with wood glue, I spread with a toothpick, but it's good. Like, I guess this turned into a little bit of a show and tell. Oh, and everybody has seen my lifetime or 2 or 3 or 4 lifetime supply of graphite powder. Um, this was I think this is a Christmas present from last year, and I didn't realize how big this container was when I saw it. Um, but you can see I've used it a bunch of times for cars and stuff, um, for the wheels and for the couplers, and there's barely touched. Yep, those are definitely easy. So for years we would get um, ice cream for our dogs, and the Ben and Jerry's ice cream always had a black plastic cover to it that would pop off, and I used those forever. Um, I'll bet I still have some probably underneath my modules that I could still use, uh, but they stopped. Um, well, we stopped getting them ice cream all the time, and they stopped using those tops. Be more eco-friendly or something. Don't they know I got a hobby? I don't think I have any left either, but I also use or have used when we were getting um, oh, here. Um, this one was our dog got a hold of this one at some point. But these are from Pringles cans, and so these are great for glue and for paint. So, instead of on the bottom there, you can use these and toss these out. This one will wash off just fine because these are acrylic paints, so not a big deal. But uh, use those all the time, and unfortunately, we don't see those anymore because we're trying to be healthy or some stupid thing like that. So, yes, that was on my list. Like I said, when I saw it on online on Amazon or whatever, I didn't take into consideration the actual um, um, size, and I just looked at the picture and I thought, "Oh, that'll be a good size." Well, it was a good size. I could give the every model railroader in the world a package of that graphite, and everybody would be happy. In my family, Tom, you have to have a list. Um, I tell this story to everyone. When my grandmother was alive, one time she's like, you have to give me a list. You have to tell me what you want." And I said, "I just want your love. A card would be nice." And she screamed at me, "That would not be enough. Get me a list." And so I got her a list because you do what your grandmother tells you to do. Um, but, you know, you know, and if I didn't give people a list, they'd probably get me steam engines and they'd probably get me Lionel, two of the things that I don't love. And so that's why I have to get a list. Um, I don't know if my mom's still on, but she hates my list because I'm like, "Get me glue," or get me this styrene because I'm building this. Um, where she wants to get me wants she's like wants to get an engine or something that's ready to run and so that I could put it on layout and show her and that sort of thing. And I'm like, "Man, I want some paint," or uh, like some of these came from a paint set that I asked for this year. Um, so I'm such a pain. But, yeah, we do I I find it much easier not to have to surprise people with gifts at times. Um, but I'm happy to get whatever I get, and even though I give Gopher Girl a list every year, she always goes off the list and gets me something. Which reminds me, and I know I've showed this before, and I'll bet it's not all over here. The, one of my favorite tools is something she got me, I believe, sort of like a gag gift. Um, but it's one of the most handy gifts ever. And um, it's a you can wear it as a wristband, but it's magnets on it, and they're strong magnets, and it's fantastic for picking stuff up that you drop in the abyss of the carpets. I'll sit there and I'll go along the carpet with it. Put it on my hand like that, and I'll go like this, and then I pick up all kinds of things. Oh, here's a screw. I can put that over there, and that's not what I'm looking for. So I look for this and that. That was probably the best Christmas gift that I ever received was a gag gift. Um, yep, yep, mom. Now that's the case, but you're allowed. Um, you've been doing it for years. It was always important to you, like it was to grandma, and so now you can just um, just, give in and just throw money at things and stuff. But I do some good things with that whenever you, throw something my way, I might buy supplies and stuff, but, you like some of the models that I do. So, uh, with that, I'm gonna go ahead and I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. My voice is kinda going. I am going to call it a night and thank everybody for stopping by, and I apologize for all the audio issues up front. But I hope that I hope I taught you something not to do, and I hope it taught you something to do. And we'll see how I progress using the plaster. Like I said, I might want to try the lightweight hydrogel instead. I'll think about that. I still have to get more of the mold maker to make the mold and stuff. Anyway, so I don't know how much I'll have done by next Friday, um, but I plan to be around for that, and I hope you plan to be around too. And remember to just jump in. And thanks again for stopping by.